I'll call this meeting to order. It is Thursday, February 20th, 2025, and it is 11 a.m. and we're here to review the memorandum of understanding for the LEAP Charities. And we have Carol Young and Dan present. Which one do you want to start out first?
I'll lead off with Dan Martinson, the administrator. We started working with the Silver Valley Senior Center folks in trying to identify locations for the potential for multifamily housing or care facilities. And so we had been working, over the years, we had been working with this group called LEAP, and I'm going to lean on, I don't ever really know what the acronym stands for, but it's LEAP Charities. And they are a 501c3 corporation that manages different grants and funds to do development projects. And they do that through a variety of co-opt and joint projects particularly with taxing district and county and government entities. And then they are able to look at some funding that provides development funds for development of housing of different types. So we started looking at, for senior citizen assisted living / multifamily, just care facilities, or just affordable, that kind of thing too. So the way they operate, and we could certainly look to have more input from them. They provided us with this memorandum of understanding. They provided us with this little guide of kind of who they are and what they work through. And you've had those to look through. Mm-hmm. The website's a pretty good website to go through and kind of get a better idea of who they are and how they operate. So what we're here for today is to ask for a memorandum of understanding between the county and that entity for them to go utilize some of their funding to do a feasibility study where they actually put some numbers in and some research into the viability of a potential development. And then start scoping what that development looks like as far as number of units, under what kind of, who would be able to use it, what limitations might there be, and who would it be geared and scoped for. Then they come back to us with that after they've completed the study, basically a pre-app type of study where they're able to say, hey, we think we can make this work, and now they have a much better idea of how that project might go and how the development might be. And at that point, they can start looking for the different types of funding that would fund it, different grants and stuff that they get through USDA, Department of Commerce, a variety of sources. And then that's when we would start looking at joint venture type projects and depending on whose land it is, depending on who's going to serve and those kinds of things. So this MOU just simply gives them some ability to move forward, to gather information, do the research, and come back with a report. There's no expense to the county at this point. Later, there could possibly be cost share funding or working through the process with allowing our land to be used or some sort of lease project with the land that we have. That may be part of the scenario, but that's what this feasibility study will identify is a particular piece of land, what does it look like, and what would be that mechanism for a joint project. This understanding just gives them the ability to go use some of their other grant funding to do it. So we're here to ask for that and answer any questions we might be able to answer. And you had a chance to again read. It's just a simple understanding that they'll go do some gathering and come up with a feasibility, and then they'll report back to us 90 and 120 days out, and then give us that scenario from there. Okay. I'll continue to work with them as they have questions about the different local type entities as far as when you do due diligence like that. It's where's the sewer and water, where's transportation, where's this, where's that.
And have you had Ben review this yet?
The MOU?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. I think that's one of the things we need to have is before we sign an MOU, we need to have legal review it.
And so that's it's a real common and that's expected.
Okay.
Other than that, I don't have anything a whole bunch more to add to unless you have specific questions. We do have Carol here. She's been working with Bart and then on this. In the room is Paige and Colleen. Three other names were coming.
That's all right.
No, sorry about that. And so Colleen in particular has worked with LEAP. A couple of years ago, we went through some similar type field trips and stuff on trying to identify potential development projects. And so she's worked with them quite a bit. So if there's any particular questions on who LEAP is, what they can do, and what they can't do, and their success rates throughout the state, and then that packet you got kind of identified all the different projects they've been working on throughout the state. And so it's not a big deal in the memorandums. Like I said, it is just a pretty straightforward, just gives them some authority to go forward and then not locking us into any expenses.
Now, is this just for senior living? Is that what we're looking at?
I'm kind of looking at mixed housing now.
They promoted to not pigeonhole it into just senior living, because we have assisted living facilities and we have things, and those facilities are, one, they're already here. Two, they get different funding for those specific reasons.
Okay.
He cautioned that you don't want to immediately pigeonhole it into just that it would be more for multifamily housing. It might be, and then there's different definitions for workforce housing, affordable housing, whatever you want to call it. But he cautioned that it would be more available to all economic groups of people, not just seniors. Or you phase it, depending on the facility. You might have certain units that are 55 and older. You might even be able to incorporate some nursing care, some facility, there's on-site medical abilities. You can craft it that way. But that's part of what they would come back with is under what grant money pays for which, pays for this. How do you structure that?
Okay.
And then come up with a scenario. And ideally, you want it as available to as many people as possible. But sometimes grant money says you're going to spend it this way, and that's how you're going to spend it if you want the money. Okay. That's the drive here, is to get to that point.
Yeah, but they thought that'd be a better fit and easier to fund doing mixed housing. So because we have trying to bring in firefighters or teachers or whoever, and housing here is a challenge for those people. So if we went that route instead of just strictly seniors, we'd probably have a better chance of.
It'd open up more funding. Okay.
So help me get the big picture here, because I'm not sure. I read through this, and Carol and I talked a little bit, but if I'm understanding this right, the end result could be the county owns some property that these guys use grants to develop, and now we're in some kind of co-ownership, partnership, leasing these. Is that
the key word being there could? So what they'll come back with is anything from outright purchase, or a lease program, a long-term lease program, or how much does the county want to be landlords? And all of those are potential, and they all have their pros and cons, and we don't necessarily want to be in the rental business. And so they'll come up with the scenarios and be able to help that decision making when that's part of this report.
And they have narrowed it down to this piece of land, or are they still exploring?
It's not pigeonholed. We had helped them identify 2 or 3 places. They self-identified that this particular one would be the one they would want to focus on. Given the parameters, it's the lowest hanging fruit with all the right infrastructure and stuff already in place. So once they get through looking at this specific property, then they'll be able to tell us it's a go or no go, or what it would look like. There's always 10 factors that might limit or put the red light on something, and that's what they're going to try to find out. And if it doesn't work out, or it's not an appropriate use of that property, then we would certainly go to look for another piece of property.
Is this property zoned for that?
It's currently in the natural resource zone, and so yes, it allows for the multifamily units. We could look to changing its zoning if need be to fit. If they come in with hey, it would suit this need, we would take a look at that from a zoning standpoint to determine if there was any zone change that would maybe be needed, and then that would be part of the process. Would be to go through that process to change the zone to a different zone that would allow more housing or allow that type of housing. But for the moment, it's an allowed use in that zone. So for multifamily. So.
And their general idea to start with the property is about 30 units, but that one can go up to, what is it, 40?
Yeah, the acres, the square footage of that property, there's a calculation in our zoning for the number of units per square foot of property, and that calculates out to about 42 units. Now, fitting that square peg in that square hole, is the other part of this question, which is part of what they're going to be able to find out. So it won't necessarily be 42 units. It will very likely be something less. But at some point, it has to be enough to pencil and make it worthwhile to have enough units to make it worth everybody's while to build it. So, but that's what part of their calculation will be. What is that break point? What is that break even point? What is that profitability point? And determine how many units. And the same thing, with that many units together, you have parking, you have to have some yard space, you have to have, you start going up in a building, and how tall are you going to go? So those are all these questions that will get at least preliminarily, conceptually answered as part of this feasibility study.
Any other further questions?
No, that answered fine.
Do you have any questions, Commissioner Cowles?
Not at this time.
So what we'll do is we'll have Ben review the MOU just to make sure that, we're, and then do you want to put this back on the calendar or we'd have to see what time he's going to be.
Or you could motion to approve it pending his approval, and if he approves it, then you've already got the vote, and you don't have to have a second meeting, but in the second meeting we can come back after he's reviewed it. If he has changes and has amendments to it, then probably you'd want to be able to explain what those changes and amendments were, so then we would want a second meeting. But I honestly don't foresee there would be any substantial changes.
All right.
It's an MOU, it's not a contract.
Not a contract. Yep. I understand that. Yep. Okay. Well, I would entertain a motion on either how the board feels. How do you want to go forward with the having Ben review the MOU and set another meeting, or do you want to approve it and
Pending his approval?
Pending his approval.
I would be inclined to approve it pending his approval, just to keep it rolling since we're a MOU and not a contract.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. Entertain a motion.
I would move that we approve this MOU to go to the next step, pending final approval from the county's attorney, the prosecutor.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We'll send it up to legal and see if he has any changes.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank
Any
you.
public questions?
Yeah, this isn't the property in Silverton that was looked at 3 years ago
Which one do you mean we look
by the Silverton Grade School, the horse arena.
No, this is the parcel that's south of the old Forest Service building. It's the old helipad property in front of the old Forest Service building on Yellowstone and Sather and whatever that little road is that goes to the old hospital. I forget the name of that one.
So,
2.25 acres. That field that's right there. That's the particular property in this question.
so you keep saying we, who's we, Dan? Is it just these 4 people in this room, or is it Silver Valley Economic Development? Who?
Predominantly, it's been Carol and I working with LEAV, and through the EDC, these are the type of projects that we work on and talk about and facilitate through the EDC. So
I'm not saying it's a bad idea or a good idea. I brought it up yesterday. I think you're really walking a tightrope on whether this is an advisory board to the commission or not. Thank you.
Any questions?
Yes, I apologize. My hearing aids are acting up. Now, this is strictly new construction. It's not acquiring an already existing building.
right, correct.
Okay. And it's going to be apartment houses or townhouses. It's not single family dwellings.
Right.
Okay.
Multi-family dwellings, yes.
Would you state your name? That was Steve Warner, and the previous one was Matt Wiener. That from the public who spoke. Any other questions here? No? Okay. Nothing further. We'll adjourn. Thank you.